We choose to go to the moon.
All right, welcome to the episode 167 of the World Blockchain Roundtable. Our guests for today are I am William in Texas. Let's see here. Sorry, my list is all out of whack here. Lisa from the Mighty Lair, and Aaron Day from Daylight Freedom and author of The Final Countdown. Not the song, but the book. Right. And we don't know. We think that Greg and Sean might show up, so they might pop in and snipe a question or something. But either way, hopefully they'll be here. And John is still missing in the tunnels in New York. We hope that he gets out someday before the war starts.
The Secret Service is looking for him now. They'll find him. If anybody can, they can. They're not inept.
That's a good point. Wow. All right. Quick update on the lot distribution from last week. So World Blockchain Roundtable, in case you didn't know it, is the first ever DAO podcast. So if you participate, you get some ownership and you can have some governance weight and so on. Every host from last week will receive 26 lot. Every topic contributor, 11 lot. Last week's theme was nominated by I am himself, the great. He will receive 11 lot. The tokens come with passive income, free edits, and governance votes for the lair and the show and everything else related. Let's see here. It's interesting that we just got it fixed, so we'll see how it works today. But the Dragon, we got most of our views, the counted views from Dragon Chain's X account. YouTube doesn't count the number of viewers for real. We've tested that before, but Musk turned on that premium API requirement for streaming without us knowing in advance. And so, and I was out of town, so we finally have premium set up on the account. We'll see if that changes anything, but at least we can broadcast on the Dragon Chain account, and there's a lot of viewers. We get a lot of followers. So, so anyway, and let's see here. Let's go to real quick. Okay, the first is this resolved 19 hours ago. DAO results for the themes for this coming this month for August. First up was has AI stole blockchain center stage and funding. I think second is what if Bitcoin Core agreed to expand the block size now? Be funny. Next, fake tokens and scammers, how to clean up blockchain. And I think that's it, right? Oh, wait, can blockchain save jobs lost to AI? So I think there are 4 weeks. There are 4 weeks or 5 weeks this month of Thursdays. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. So anyway, that's how those votes came out. I don't know which one you guys most want to, most interests you, but either way, let me know. And let's see here. I think before we get to the actual questions, Lisa, you had...
Yes, I want to call an audible, and that's why I'm so excited that Aaron is here today. Trump spoke at Bitcoin conference. Cynthia Loomis rolled out her legislation, and I think that she submitted it yesterday, I believe, and to make Bitcoin a reserve for the U.S. dollar. And Aaron really helped me unpack my mind about it, because I thought, oh, this is just what every Bitcoiner wants. And he's like, well, I'd love to hear Aaron's thoughts on it. And have him kind of unpack how dangerous this could be for America, and the world.
Great. Well, I'm happy to talk about that. I don't know where to start. There's it's some fundamental level. So if Nancy Pelosi went up on stage and announced that she just was putting together a bill to commit to buying her stock portfolio and locking it up for 20 years, what would people's response be? Because essentially I think that's one way you can start beginning to look at what's even going on here. So basically, Loomis owns Bitcoin. From the filings that I found from the last time it was reported, she owns between $100,000 and $500,000 worth of Bitcoin. And then she went on television and in front of this audience of people and said that she was going to put together a Bitcoin reserve. And she released the text of the bill yesterday, which says that the federal government will buy 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years, $200,000 per year, with a minimum holding period of 20 years. And, it requires all Bitcoin under federal control to be transferred to strategic Bitcoin reserve. And so you just go through and look at this, and they're going to use state-of-the-art physical and digital security measures. I mean, I think I read somewhere in there, and I got to dig into this, that they're going to use multiple vaults in multiple locations. So, I mean, this is just
What?
yeah. I mean, it gets more absurd the more that you look into this. But the way that I look at this is the United States has $35 trillion in debt. We just passed the $35 trillion milestone. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to shake down all of our citizens for taxpayer money, and we're going to go to the roulette wheel and put it all on 31 black. This is the most degenerate form of gambling I think that I've ever seen. And the odd part about it is she even says, well, we're going to use this to solve our debt problem. So we're going to solve our debt problem at the earliest 20 years from now. And I'm going to ask you, so do we think spending, I don't know, $3 trillion or so over the next 5 years and then not reaping any rewards from that for 20 years? How do you think that's going to work in the near term in terms of the United States debt and financial picture? Just from a fundamental perspective, is that going to solve anything? It's actually going to add to the problem. We're going to add $3 trillion to the debt. And then at best, we're going to have a paper asset. We're going to have something on paper that we can't even liquidate. So it's absurd on its face. And I could go on and on and on and on about it, but I'm shocked. What shocks me are people that got into Bitcoin for the purpose of separation of money and state that are cheering this on. And I want to make clear one thing, because some people are like, oh, we're backing the dollar by Bitcoin. We're not backing the dollar by Bitcoin. It used to be that the dollar was actually backed by gold and you could redeem your dollars for gold. That is not what's going on here. We're not backing the dollar by Bitcoin. We're simply buying some of it, storing it for 20 years, gambling and hoping at some point it'll help pay off the debt, or even just using that as the excuse. The reality is this is great for Cynthia Loomis, who has her $100,000 to $500,000 for the Bitcoin, because it's going to take 1 million Bitcoin out of circulation. Is she going to commit to not spending her Bitcoin for 20 years? Are all of the politicians that co-sponsor this bill going to commit to the same thing? To me, this is actually one of the most crony pieces of legislation that I've seen in a long time on its face. And then let's not even get into the fact that we all now know Bitcoin is a surveillance coin. CBDCs are being developed. And this is an important point. So Trump said he's against CBDCs. RFK said he's against CBDCs. Yet Trump said in the first 100 days, he's going to pass crypto legislation, clear rules of the road. I hate that phrase, but to provide regulatory clarity. Cynthia Loomis has been the one in the Senate drafting crypto regulation. She's kind of at the forefront of that with Gillibrand from New York. If you read her bills, they are anti-privacy. They are pro-know your customer, anti-money laundering. They are all about actually giving stable coins to the banks. So basically making it so that if you want to operate a stable coin, you can only use a registered financial institution in the United States. They even want to ban algorithmic stablecoins. So that's the kind of regulatory clarity we are going to get within the first 100 days under Trump. So nobody should be celebrating any of this. What this means at the end is they're going to buy a hijacked 7 transaction per second surveillance coin with taxpayer money and put it into a reserve for 20 years and then make it so that we can't develop any privacy alternatives or use privacy alternatives to CBDCs. This is a dystopian nightmare.
And let's just hope that they don't decide to lend against some kind of synthetic they create out of it later if they get in trouble too.
They'd never do that.
Oh, of course not.
You know what? I completely agree with everything Aaron just said. And I can say this. with full confidence. There are 5 words. Solutions don't come from DC.
Yeah.
Period.
True.
Certainly not ones that don't involve guns pointing at people or threats of guns pointing.
You know, a lot of the things you said, and I did come in a little late, are based on the fact that they're telling the truth, which is just dumb to think that. You can't, like I am said, it's not that solutions don't come, but even you can't trust good ideas. I did bother me when Trump said stuff about the stable coin, and then the way he said it. Have you heard about this? Have you heard about the stable coins? Like people didn't know, like it was a secret or something. I don't know. I thought like I told Lisa, I thought his speech was not a speech; it was just a rally. And maybe it's by design. Maybe it was all just beautiful, perfect theater. But RFK, who I hated how much I loved his speech because I don't like politicians. But I told Lisa it was like I got a time machine, went back 2,000 years and actually listened to Jesus speak. It was everything the man said. I was like, yeah, what? You know, it's like, well, that's.
Hope you have a lightning rod on your house.
That's like perfect. But you know, but anyway, ultimate tinfoil hat, ultimate conspiracy theory. What if they did create Bitcoin? 2, and they own Satoshi's wallet, and now they do this to actually like all of them say, when we buy the 4 million, blah blah blah, when we buy the 2 million, we buy the 1 million Bitcoin, the price will astronomically skyrocket. And then they have basically solved a chunk of the debt, or given themselves, you know, a couple more decades under the current system to keep power.
Yep.
Well, again, at least in Trump's case, they're not going to sell for 20 years. So I can't see exactly the
why? Who's going to stop them? Like, the Patriot Act it's very temporary.
Right, and we also won't use the Strategic Petroleum Reserve unless we need it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's like I told Lisa on our show Tuesday. It's almost, if you're cynical of looking at it, it's like when they stole the gold from everybody, then raised the price and said, "Look at how much more money we have now." After they stole it, it's like if they created the Bitcoin, then they buy all the Bitcoin and they take, you know, after allowing everyone to get into it. That's one thing that has blown my mind, being in it as long as I have, that we are a political force to be pandered to. That was amazing.
So smart policy, what would that look like? Would it be instructing all federal agencies to immediately divest of all Bitcoin right away at spot, to like dump it and, you know, get them out of the game so that they can't get back in, and then don't let them?
Yeah, that's.
How about not confiscate it in the first place? It would be.
We've already got all the water under that bridge, so we've got to figure out what those holdings become. I mean, maybe we just let them continue to do whatever the shady thing is they're going to do. Maybe that's better than trying to instruct something of it. It's hard to say.
What Lisa just said, we the people, what?
Abandon the Bitcoin. There are better options out there, Litecoin specifically, that does have privacy.
No, well, and people are doing this. I saw, if you follow Vlad, other people are doing this. I've been making a big push. We need privacy by default. None of these coins have privacy, and we already know. And I get into these arguments with people online. Oh, well, you know, they can't use chain analysis to find me, and they're not going to go after everybody. And even if they do, I'll just remember my 12 words. And it's like, okay, well, I'll remember that when I tell all my OG friends that are in prison, that are battling the IRS. I mean, so it always comes down to, it's like, these are smart people. These are smart people that didn't even do anything wrong. These are the smartest people. They're probably smarter than you are. And you're making a claim about what you're going to do when they come with FBI agents to your house and throw you in a cage. What are you going to have the smugness of knowing while you're in a cage that you've taken your supply out of circulation for Bitcoin? I mean, is that the big win here? Because that's essentially what
they can't have it, even though I can't use it in prison.
Exactly. That's the big picture. Well, at least they won't have it. It's like, wow. Well, I'm sure you're Cynthia Loomis thanks you, but this doesn't solve any real fundamental problem. They can understand what your transactions are. We need privacy, and the thing is, it's very clear. None of the CBDCs that are being developed are permissionless. Anybody's naive thoughts that they're going to use BSV or they're going to use a permissionless open blockchain, that's dead. Right. So they're in the middle of rolling these things out. I think that they're doing this to just suck up people's money and divert time for building alternatives. So now all of a sudden they'll crash Bitcoin, they'll roll out a CBDC, and then people won't be using privacy coins. And so then that's going to make it even that much easier to roll out CBDCs. But I also think a lot of this is everybody's an expert in game theory in Bitcoin. This is always the expert. When something happens, it's like, well, let the game theory play out, right? This is always what they say on this. and the assumption on this is, it's like, oh, it's the China versus Taiwan, it's Ukraine versus Russia. And it's like, this is all theater, right? It's, oh, well, the BRICS are emerging. Guess what? All of those countries are part of the UN and the World Health Organization. All of those countries that are supposed to be sworn enemies are working on alliances that will essentially erode the sovereignty of each of the respective organizations. And so they're moving towards a kind of a one world system, and yet we are buying into these manufactured things and thinking that we're playing game theory with our 7 transaction per second surveillance coin.
Can I mention one more thing? Solutions don't come from DC. Did I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only problem
that's not entirely fair, because there are some really great companies that are based out of that area that don't have anything to do. That don't have anything to do with the government. Coffee shops and
don't have anything to do.
There are probably some really great donut delivery places there. I mean, I don't know.
Every single one of them is a freaking.
There's got to be some private business there. That's not...
Oh no! Now you're going to say there's a pizza place in DC.
Yeah,
we're going to go there.
I'm just trying not to paint with too broad a brush.
Well, I think the other really concerning thing, and Aaron, you touched on it, but I want people to hear this, is that in the legislation, everybody needs to go read the legislation. It bans other coins. It's like stopping people from, is that correct, Aaron?
Yeah, her legislation, it's not in the strategic reserve legislation, but in the Loomis Gillibrand legislation, this is all about stable coins only being able to be issued by registered financial firms, banning algorithmic stable coins. I mean, it's explicit. And I put out some quotes. She has explicit quotes. She is against privacy. She is fundamentally against it. I put out a few memes on this. Mm-hmm. She thinks that all crypto should be public and transparent. And the other stuff is, of course, it's only going to be used by the people involved in money laundering and terrorism, because why else would anybody want privacy other than that?
And the Bank Secrecy Act and all its progeny have done so much good to stop actual crime, right?
Yeah. No, Loomis is probably one of the most anti. Somebody said one of bunch of things. Read the bills. Just go and download the bills and read them. There's no cynicism here. It's their words in black and white, and nobody's read these bills.
And nobody wants to hear it. That's why I wanted to get you on here to have. I'm working on a bunch of articles for Brownstone right now. The first one, which I've been taking forever on, is about tokenization and the great taking and how that relates to CBDCs. And that one's been a bear. But then I'm going to jump into this other stuff to summarize what this legislation is so that people can see what's actually in it. Because I believe that you could put out a blockchain USA freedom bill, and the text of it could say we're going to round everybody up and put them in a gas chamber that has self-custody crypto, and most people would cheer for it because nobody would read the bill.
Right. They just read the short title and that'd be that.
They read the short, and every bill, the title of every bill, it usually means the opposite. We should know that by now, right? Oh. We should. The Patriot Act, the CARES Act. I mean, are you kidding me? So TARP,
USA Freedom Act.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
So I'm looking at Loomis yesterday, and she's in the middle of doing all of this. I think she's putting together some legislation involving the bald eagle, something about making the bald eagle some official symbol of something or other legislatively. I'm like, yeah, no, why have actual freedom when you could have symbols? It's just
if they just stick to the symbols and stop messing with the actual freedem, then they'd probably do fine.
Can I tell this is a good question. What do you think is the cause for crypto enthusiasts sticking their head in the sand on this? I mean, it's pretty obvious that they all have been programmed to think this number go up. Oh, this is institutional adoption. The same reason that you wanted the Bitcoin ETF and the same reason you wanted the Ethereum ETF. It's just ridiculous.
I don't think so. I completely disagree with you on that. Really? Did you watch it? Did you watch all the speeches? Did you watch everything?
On what? Which speeches?
All the
Bitcoin
all the Bitcoin conference speeches. The fact, I mean, it was, and Harris was supposed to be there. It was.
She said she wasn't going because she said Bitcoin's for criminals.
We were.
Look at how they've done this. The narrative's framed
the
perfectly.
government is the criminals.
We have been abused children for so long, and we are just going to get out of this place. We're going to get out of this town, and that's all. Number go up. And for me, it was all, oh my God, my parents love me. Oh my God, we have validation. It was
that's the problem.
Them saying, yes, we hear you. Yes, your community is strong, and we respect you.
It was them saying, yes, we realize you have campaign funds, so you'll give to us if we say the right things right now, no matter what we do.
But I think I don't think it's the number go up thing. I think it is much more people just, oh yeah, this is so much better. It's like adulation. It's like we've really arrived. It's not about number go up to the side thing. It really is. This is
That's
real.
True. The interviewers at the Bitcoin conference, like in between the guy, who was it? Pete? Was it Peter McCormick? I don't know. I think that's who was doing the interview. But they were like, this is historic. We've reached a milestone. We're being acknowledged. Presidential candidates are coming to use Bitcoin platform to speak and blah, blah, blah. And
this is just the way they fight us.
They were saying, oh, govern me harder, daddy. I mean.
The libertarian has been kicked to the road in the DC.
Yeah, Rand Paul was a side interview.
Yeah,
the guy who's like always there, and he was like, "All right, Grandpa, you're go to the backstage,"
And the problem with this is that, again, the whole purpose of this was to separate money and state. Now they have politicians. I heard somebody say it was a whole bunch of nerds that weren't popular in school that now that they look like they're getting attention from the popular people. You're right. There's some validation to it, but there's no truth that this is in any way designed to help promote freedom or promote cryptocurrency. And that is clearly true based on the legislation that's being passed. With respect to RFK, let's not even talk about the fact that you can't just pass an executive order and buy 4 million Bitcoin. That's actually not how it works. So just right out of the gates, what these people are proposing is not within their power to do. So this is a classic problem with campaign promises where somebody says something, say, oh, great, I'm going to do this. Great. That's not part of the executive branch of government. Here's the process for if you are even genuine about what you're saying, here's what the steps would be, right? But with RFK, what was he saying? Well, I've put a lot of my net worth into Bitcoin. The vice presidential candidate who bought her way onto the ticket, her boyfriend works for Lightning Network. There is nothing about this that is like a pro-patriot move. This is all actually direct. This is direct for RFK to be engaging in this level of cronyism after all of what he says about captured industry and about environmental and about big pharma. Of course they're captured. And then your solution to this is to be captured by people with this new emerging asset. I mean, that's great. Well done. Well played.
Yeah.
Just give it some time and watch them turn into the worst sort of corrupt. It just takes a little. Nobody is yet to propose throwing the ring of power into the mountain of fire. Like I feel like if we had an honest policy on this, what we'd have is a bunch of promises to rescind activity. and
I
to
think
undo
it's less a
action.
ring. I don't think there's a ring of power. It's more like Horcruxes. There are billions of Horcruxes that we cannot gather all of them to destroy them. They've separated by killing so many people.
Okay, so we can
That is a good way to put things, dude. That's very.
we can debate the metaphor, but I think the
Oh,
point
yeah.
remains, right?
Beautiful, Joe. In the chat, KIFS Crypto said people crave recognition. Isn't that true? But I was just thinking about that. I was thinking, wait a minute.
It is
The Monero people,
the essence of Timos,
people
right?
are going to like, well, they're not going to be craving attention. Hey, look at me. I bought Monero. Yeah.
Yeah.
They might do the whole. I don't.
But there
have
was
it.
a time. There was a time years ago that was true.
True.
When there was the Dash, there was the Monero, there was the Qdom. There was all the privacy coins were a thing. Which one's gonna be the adopted one? Which one's gonna be the privacy one?
And I would argue the new thing is privacy tokens.
Well,
That is
and
going to be the thing.
And by the
Well,
way,
is there isn't really a decent smart contract based chain for like privacy in the sense like there's no Ethereum but with anonymity by default, right? I think Secret Network tried.
Litecoin
Secret Network tried.
Well, here's the thing.
Zano is good for this, and I know I missed the tokenization one. I apologize. I was coughing. Zano, have you seen Zano? This has been something that I've been really digging into for the last 4 to 6 weeks, and because I've spent a lot of time doing tokenization with Ravencoin. I've been doing tokenization since 2018, and Ravencoin is the fork of Bitcoin. So it's completely transparent. It works, but it's transparent. Zano was built by the same guys that worked on some of the. Here we go. Now we got some people. Same people that worked on developing crypto note technology behind Monero. You can basically create tokens within the wallet without smart contracts. You can swap them. There's wallet to wallet without any third parties, and it's completely private. And I actually think this is a huge. I could do a whole separate thing about this in terms of because they're building CBDCs, but they're also building this thing called regulated liability network, where they're going to basically tokenize all of our assets on a centralized platform that can be regulated and monitored by multiple third parties. So we need to be able to opt out of CBDCs, and we need to be able to opt out of this regulated liability network. So
central bank non-fungible tokens to represent non-fungible assets, right? It's basis for wealth tax ultimately.
Exactly. And it's how we get to you will own nothing and be happy. They'll be able to do it with a click of a button once everything is digitized and on one common framework. So I really like Zano for that. And so I'm not saying go out and buy it. I'm saying go use it. If you're interested in it, I'll send you one just so that you can go through the process of actually creating an asset and sending the asset, because it's pretty magical when you think about the fact that now I can tokenize anything and trade it anywhere in the world without any third parties and nobody knows about it. That's a very powerful fundamental technology.
And it's capable of doing like complex automation if you want to, like if you want to have something where you issue a digital signature or you send the asset somewhere and some sequence of steps happens. That's still possible.
Because of the complexity of this, it doesn't have smart contracts built in, other than they're building into it natively an escrow agreement, so that I could say, I'm going to send you something for $50. We each put $50 in escrow, and then when we finally resolve whatever needs to get done with the transaction to our mutual satisfaction, the escrow is released. So it uses a mutually assured destruction approach to this, but you can interface this with other cryptocurrencies. There's a way to do this with. So
nice.
Check it out. They've been building the tech for 5 years, and they're just now actually rolling out kind of the front end features of it. But I'm all privacy coins now. I mean, I like Litecoin and Mimblewimble, all of it. I mean, I am not a maxi. We need a multi-asset approach. So I'm excited about the entirety of the privacy space, but I'm really interested in this Zano on the tokenization side and precious metals. And by the way, the ability to privately tokenize gold and silver. So here's the thing. I use, this is off topic, but I use gold backs. If you guys have seen these, 1/1000th of an ounce. And when I give this to my barber, or if I give this as a tip or whatever, they have this money and nobody knows that they own it. It's completely private. It's like cash. But when I go onto the gold back site, I can buy digital versions of this in a centralized database, but it's all tracked. So it kind of defeats the purpose of me going to an online site and using digital representations of gold back if they're not private. So
Right.
what I'm pursuing is this idea of you could create a Zano token. I've already tokenized and sold a gold back actually, but that's not the full use of it. But if the Alpine company did that instead of using their centralized database approach, then people could actually trade privacy tokenized versions of this. And then at some point, if you wanted to physically redeem, you could, but this is a way that the tokens and the gold backs themselves could be completely private. The merging of physical metals and crypto, to me, that's powerful.
Yep.
That's a cool. I mean, it's going to be a first step towards intertwining and intertangling all sorts of real world assets on chain, and it's a great first simple case to get right before we start trying to do really complex things like shipping container manifests and that sort of stuff.
Can I say something? Because a lot of people will point to, but which one, which one is going to be the privacy coin? Which one is going to be the whatever? And it's always, it's backwards from what we should be looking at. We should want variety for choice, that features and tech, that, having multiple different protocols is good, because if one of them has an actual failure, which no one can predict, whether it's from human behavior or if it's something in the code itself, you have all of these other. You're not going to destroy the entire ecosystem, and that's the reason I've always I've been so frustrated with maximalists, because they're working directly towards what the government would want us to do. It's like, oh, we're all gonna just use this one coin. So
to give these guys some hope too, like the folks who actually are like hyper invested in one chain that isn't particularly well placed to guarantee their freedom at this point, should the networks decide to take action, how feasible is full anonymity on Bitcoin? How feasible, I mean, not Bitcoin probably because they're already captured, but like how feasible is it on any given chain to go from pseudo anonymity to anonymity by default? Is that a feasible thing, or are we literally talking about a whole bunch of folks who probably are better off shifting to something new?
Well, I think Zano can actually help with that, and I think that there might be a way to use Zano to actually allow people to gain anonymity on but it's steps, right? The challenge with all of this is how many steps are people going to take? That's why when I get into arguments with people online, it's always somebody's like, well, you just don't understand the tech. You don't know how to do this. And I'm like, listen, if your idea for how somebody can have privacy with money is that they have to have 140 IQ and 15 years of dev experience, then you've missed the whole point of money. Like, this isn't. I had somebody said, well, here you said you can track these things. Here, I'm going to give you two addresses. You find my identity, and it's like the point isn't about this. Isn't a pissing contest about whether I can find your identity, but here's what happened to Ross Ulbricht. Here's what happened to Ian Freeman. Here's what happened to all these other people. If you're denying the fact that people are using chain analysis, if you're denying the fact that smart people have been targeted and arrested due to chain analysis, then you're mistaken. So
you literally cannot right now, due to a perversion of the Constitution, access the open source code needed to use a mixer on any of the popular chains right now. Like, you literally would commit a strict liability offense that would guarantee 20 years in prison if you send anything to Tornado Cash, for example, on ETH.
Really,
we talk about going backwards as far as using precious metals. Tokenizing and then trying to make it more modern day with being able to swap it digitally. By the way, I still have goldbacks. My dog ate a bunch of goldbacks, and it really bothers me now we talk about goldbacks.
Got some rich tastes there.
Yeah, I was like, my kids are like, oh, those gold dollars? Yeah, the dog chewed up a bunch of them.
Oof.
But
I'm gonna go mine your backyard.
Oh, gross. Yeah, that is pretty nasty. Also, Kazoo, hello family, and Sean. Okay.
He's talking to the people in the chat on my channel.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, because it's coming from, okay, got
Need a
it.
gold capture mechanism on the outflow of your dog's exhaust pipe there.
I think there.
I want to see the Explorer on that one.
It's so messed up. We've gotten to the point where it has to fall. You just look at history, and you can't argue with the pattern of what's going. It's got to happen. How bad the fall is, how many people die, that's all can be different.
Well, these guys keep finding ways to kick the can. I think what alarms me the most about this, right, is the idea that there is all of this real value maybe stashed away on chain, thinking that in Bitcoin my wealth will be safe from encroaching government inflation activities. And in reality, what they're doing is finding a way to capture it. And I mean, if they're holding that much Bitcoin, right, when they hyperinflate the dollar, guess what the exchange rate's going to do, right? Like these guys now have an incentive to do the same thing to Bitcoin.
Well, it's already happening. We're going to see numbers like from a video game. We're going to see the first, trillionaire this year, for sure. Was it? I forget.
You got to get to Mars, man.
We're talking about it was like BlackRock or someone. We're talking about just the total debt, and it was quadrillion. Of all it's the numbers are getting so huge.
Well, the thing to think about historically is that in Weimar Germany, it wasn't. How do I say? This is looking to be the equivalent, except that we're the center of the world. We have the military power back then. Germany did not. So how is that going? I think the threshold's going to be a lot higher, and the fall is going to be a lot worse, right? So
I think we overestimate the utility. I think we overestimate the utility of the military power and retaining the value of the dollar.
To Sean's point about the massive debt and how big the debt is, I think we're going to need AI to calculate it and keep track of it. Ooh, there's your segue.
Do we want to get to questions? We can go to questions. You want to do that?
Yeah, we should probably do questions.
I had a question for y'all.
Great discussion, though, guys.
All right.
I was talking on Tuesday, Truth Tuesday with me and Lisa. I was talking about just the fiat money in general. It's an experiment, and how we've used what is money. Does anyone know how long we use seashells and sand dollars and so on? Because if we look at this,
still in use somewhere, right? Like there's still probably.
Now, I mean, they could literally talk because we haven't been using fiat money that long. It's like for this small time, they actually just had paper, and they just printed it up, and people killed each other over it, and countries went to war. And it was such a silly time in human history. I want to know how long, because if it was like 500 years or something. It's just weird to think about our fiat system versus money through time.
Well, sovereigns have been messing with money since time immemorial, basically since there were sovereigns and money coexisting in the same space, right? They would do stuff like shave off the precious metals from the
to print more coins. Yeah.
So I think there's an important part about this. Every government currency in human history has failed. 100% failure rate, including precious metals, to Greg's point, which is by the end of the Roman Empire, I think that the silver denarius had 0.05% silver. So if we look at what the common problem is with money, it's not gold versus silver versus whether you do this approach or that approach. The common source of the problem is government. So the whole innovative idea behind this was to separate money and state. And now somebody had asked earlier, why do Bitcoin maxis think this stuff? And what I've been doing is I've been reading all of the books that they read, because it's very complex propaganda and a lot of books that look to be. There's one on layered money. So there's a book on layered money that explains, well, of course, to justify Bitcoin as being a store of value, and then you build on top of it. To try to justify layer two for medium of exchange. There's a lot of very sophisticated information. I think Bitcoin Standard is probably one of the biggest pieces of propaganda. It's the Yuval Harari of the Bitcoin movement, but people get into it and then they repeat it. And so one of the things on my list to do is to go through and explain maybe why you should be critical of these books as opposed to just read them and then assume that they're fact and then make it part of your belief system, because there's some big issues and problems with the flaws. So now it's gone from
Right.
it's always the challenge to go to, okay, I read the white paper. I remember what it was like using this to begin with. I don't remember the part of the white paper about game theory and getting, governments and central banks to buy against one another and use it as a layer one solution for their own nation's currencies. That is not part of what the thing is. But when you listen to people talk about it today, they're like, well, this is just the game theory playing out, as if this is what it was always supposed to be, and they believe it. And so there are all of these books and then all of these statements about it, and I get them all the time. Most of the responses that I get from Bitcoin maxis, they're 2 to 3 words. They're just whatever the taglines are coming out of this, and then when you question them on it, they go away.
What is El Salvador different? Is El Salvador doing it different, or is it the same thing, the same plan? Do they have, I don't know their legislation, or if they have legislation around it, or if they really were giving Bitcoin to the people and getting their hands out of money.
That's a good point. It's the 5th republic in France, so they do fall, they do reset. And Gerald Draper is now my favorite person, but you don't have the rules of acquisition. Gerald,
I think we can fairly suspect that somewhere in there is probably a little weasel backdoor of some sort that, if it hasn't been exploited yet, will be ultimately, because like we've been saying, it's a government, and therefore combining it with the tokens, combining it with the crypto is inherently the wrong path.
The one of the comments in the chat recently was something about ETH being the maybe clearinghouse for BRICS, but ETH can't scale, so it doesn't have the scalability even to do the clearinghouse portion of it between the BRICS nations. So I think Jim Willey might be in error there of that thinking.
These BRICS nations are all independently doing their own CBDCs. China already has a CBDC. India is working on CBDCs. They're not using XRP. They're not using Stellar. All of this stuff that people say, you can go and look and track them what they're using. They're using permission systems. They're using some open source technology, but they're permission systems. And so they're not. So yeah, if you're sitting, which by the way to me is almost as bad as, or maybe it's even worse than, hoping that the government's going to buy your coin, is hoping that central banks are going to use your coin for CBDCs. Where have we gone here? Like, how far off are we? And with respect to the question about El Salvador, El Salvador, you got to understand, their currency, they constantly had currency crisis. They're having to get bailed out by the IMF and the World Bank. And so what they made Bitcoin legal tender, but then everybody has to use it through a custodied wallet, this Chivo wallet, which I understand has some surveillance features built into it. I don't know that for sure, but there's surveillance features built into it. So
it's a side chain.
It's a side chain, and it was hacked, and every citizen in El Salvador was doxxed.
Wait, so, it's a side chain? So technically they're playing with synthetics of Bitcoin already.
Derivatives of Bitcoin.
Of course. Anybody watching when that whole thing rolled out would have to have seen. It's like, okay, you have all these maxis that, a lot of them either came out of or were involved with somehow, like the Goldman Sachs of the world, and they don't give a shit about the freedom side of any of this. They're there to pull as much money as they can as fast as they can. And
what I admire honestly about it, from a sinister, I'm plotting to take over the world because I'm evil hypothetical version of me, like, you got to admire the insidious nature of sort of the two-story system they've set up here, where there's the Democrats who are on the Warren side over here who are talking about passing this draconian on the surface legislation, and then there are these people who are pro-crypto over here who are trying to pass this legislation that is just a wolf in sheep's clothing, and we're arguing over which way is the better way instead of none of these. Again, that trap gets people. It's amazing how well I guess the two-cycle state works, as described by Yarvin.
Crazy. Yep. But central banks, I could, central banks is, and that's the thing. It's not a very far step from, we need a Bitcoin ETF to the central bank's going to use you're going to use Bitcoin. It's so ridiculous. It's funny.
No,
Anyway,
well, and they'll advocate. By the way, Bitcoin right now is $62,898. It's down 5% today. So, again, you compare it to where it was in November of 2021. I point this out not because the focus should be on price, but when the whole argument now for Bitcoin from Bitcoin maxis is that it's store of value and that the only value of it is price, then it's fair game to point out price. I mean, again, if you can't have multiple presidential candidates and senators pumping your coins and that doesn't work, I mean, who's left? What kind of influencers do we have left? We're going to need bigger guns. You're going to need bigger arsenals to be able to pump this thing.
Dude,
You know what?
Elon Musk is sitting on
go
Doge right now, man. That's probably going to be the one that wins.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for the IDF rape brigade to pump my Solana bags. I don't have any Solana, and I'm not in support of the rape brigade either. So anyway,
I think when the IRS actually comes forward and supports a particular crypto, that's the one I'm going to buy.
You'll have to be a good little slave and pay your taxes.
Yep.
Wow. This is okay.
Pro privacy tip, by the way, when you do pick a privacy coin, don't tell anybody which one you picked.
Yeah. Should you say that you pick a different one?
I remember is that some states started allowing you to pay your taxes in crypto. And it was just such an odd thing to be like, yeah.
It's like, no, you give it fiat, you dumbass.
I do like Ethereum Classic.
Fiat and you hold your crypto.
By the way, I am boycotting
to be
currently
awesome.
both Coke and Pepsi. Just so you know, it's like just so you guys know. I mean, nothing personal, but to Coke and Pepsi in the chats. But you are under boycott right now. Anyway, should we go to the questions? Okay, I did already refresh. So the first question.
Aaron gets to answer first because he has only like 10 minutes.
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
very good. So
this wasn't audible because I wanted it to go last.
Okay. All right. I have not voted yet. It looks like we need some votes in here. Okay. So this graph tells a lot. Yes, Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain is a money go up thing. Money go up, huh? It has captured a lot of people's attention. Looking for a way to invest, bigger return on a quicker. It might be one of the only, at least in the between 2010 and now, maybe the only fair game in town for a while was to buy all the crypto there was and just see what happened. But what many haven't realized yet is that the time horizon is shrinking as more jobs are lost to robotics and AI. Question is the future of Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain going to be more and more dominated by income and investment returns and less about utility? I say this because I predict a lot of utility will be captured by robotics in the AI industry. Show me incentive, I show you the outcome. So, question, Aaron.
I see
anything? It's time.
Look at that chart real quick in the image.
A Bitcoin and blockchain searches together, and you double the total searches for AI. That is true. It is.
I'm an AI and robotics optimist, so I have a different take. But
See, well, go ahead, Aaron.
What does Aaron think?
Well, so the question here is what is it? What I needed to go back to the other is the future of going to be more and more dominated by income investment returns? I don't think so. It's simply because unless we put together a concerted effort to get people to start using privacy coins, we're all going to be enslaved. So maybe the answer is that it does go that way, but I think it's going to be more about CBDCs versus privacy coins, and it's about free will versus determinism. And if crypto doesn't become about utility and about privacy, then we're all going to be basically living in pods with our free will stripped from us using social credit systems that are determined by elites through scientists and engineers.
Right. And our enthusiasm will make it very Brave New World like, rather than 1984 like, because we'll love our prison.
Our prison and our soma. We'll have our medications that we're taking that zap us of our decision making and free will. So yeah,
I have an interesting take on this. We built DIN a while back, and it was an experiment, in what I call behavior tech. And blockchain is a component, transparency is a component, and some form of behavior-based incentives and disincentives are important. And in the end, after all of the things that we've done, that we experimenting all the way back to Disney with that concept, it's an interesting thing that it's hard to explain to people who aren't in crypto for sure, and it's really hard to get them out of their worldview into one where, look, we can do things on chain voluntarily, with whatever level of privacy might be deemed appropriate by that person, right? It's their own choice, but that behavior systems, I think, are a positive for the world, and potentially opposed, although they can be used, although no one is looking to do, none of the AI companies are even considering anything close to this, but can be used as a humane approach to the interaction between AI and humans, because the humans can then have some say. They can be, this is a human, credentialed, not credentialed, here's the consensus. And, we can effectively, if any of those AI, and none of them, in my opinion, are looking to anything for a humane solution. They're just looking for VC money. It's all just a race.
Well,
and anyway, that's an angle, because that's a real human element where, in my opinion, I think it is faster and definitely more efficient to get to any answer out there with a market, an open market where people are involved. That you could, I know this is the right answer, I'm going to bet on it. I know this is the right answer, I'm going to buy into that. That's the right way to get to answers. And general AI, although interesting and useful and very scary in some cases, is a shortcut to that, but it's a very expensive shortcut that just happens to have a ton of hype, because that's the nature of the game. The venture capitalists come in and they will pump their bags, which are, Wall Street bags, which are VC. That's all any of that is. That's why we see trillions of dollars going into AI. It's all VC. And you look at social media, was the exact same path. Billions and billions of dollars went into it, where it was all fake numbers, fake adoption. It's the same thing. Anyway.
The reason I proposed this question was because the search engines show a lot about the number go up. People are looking for Bitcoin to, as a hedge or as investment to make a quick buck, et cetera, or other cryptos, blockchain. And that has kind of overshadowed the utility and use cases of blockchain, unfortunately. And as people start losing more and more of their jobs, in my opinion, to robotics and AI, they're going to be looking more and more towards, passive income functions or a place to put their money, other than, say, precious metals, or maybe a stock pick that's an AI stock pick. And that's where I was going. I was thinking that the majority of the searches for Bitcoin is about number go up, which I don't fault. I think that's just part of human nature. It's part of, I want to stack more bags, more coin, whatever, or more crypto or silver or gold or whatever. And so I think that's where it is. And so long live DeFi and people looking for passive income. But you're right, Joe, ultimately, the wisdom of the crowd prevails. It can predict the future a lot better. And AI gets it wrong at this stage of the game.
Hey, can you guys still hear me? My screen's frozen up. Can you guys still hear my voice though?
We can
Yes.
hear you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I want to chime in on this before I have to close my browser and the conversation will sneak by me onto another question. If I do, I know it. So I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to relaunch. I think maybe we ought to consider the possibility that scarcity will not be destroyed by AI. That scarcity is as boundless as human want, which is always more, right? So if automation takes away certain needs of our productivity, right? If we don't have to pursue whatever AI can replace, the idea that we are going to find no desire for more and devise no other ways to go get it than what AI is already capable of doing, what robotics is already capable of doing, to me seems backwards, I guess. I feel like what's going to happen with AI is we're going to ultimately get a return on that investment in terms of just like real work being done. And yeah, a bunch of people are going to be freed up from labor that they're not going to have an easy time figuring out what to do next, but somebody will. Like, I don't see the end of scarcity coming anytime soon. Therefore, I don't think we're going to run out of jobs. I think the way that it's really the blockchain and AI can work together is an independent store of wealth and medium of exchange that we can use to make sure that AI cannot be only driven to the purposes of the people that control everything.
That's a good point.
I think while scarcity certainly could go away or at least be materially improved by AI, the problem that we have with what's actually happening is we're witnessing the creation of manufactured scarcity. The entire purpose of what these technocrats are doing is trying to create an enclosed system based on energy credit. So I actually think that what we're going to see is the application of AI in the context of something that has been artificially limited and made scarce so that a very small group of people can control everything. So that's
also
actually
a possibility.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Risk.
Yeah,
Great
right.
Gazoo, keep your jokes coming. Great Gazoo, they're hilarious. The chat.
I think it's very different than what all of you have said.
Oh,
all of you keep using the same word and then the different explanation, and it's humanity, human. I think that is what has changed over time. I think that's what the goal has been, to make humanity stupider, because people realized the banks were the problem. People realized who evil was, and they had to go through the depression. They had to suffer. They had to eat dog. Go watch The Grapes of Wrath. It was bad. And then through simple reverse psychology, for these simple folks, they got into power again. And BlackRock owns everything. Who owns BlackRock? Bank of America owns BlackRock, and they don't have anyone on the board. They're doing it from the shadows. They don't want people to know that they own BlackRock. Just the history of our country. I mean, Bush.
I've got to go, guys. I apologize.
Take care.
Cool,
Thanks
man.
for joining us.
Thanks for swinging by. Good chat with you.
That movie Amsterdam, where it was just insane that the government almost got taken over by a bunch of fascists that wanted to move us towards a more fascist regime, and they were doing it. They were about to do it. One retired general that they brought on in order to do it went and spilled the beans. But I was talking with Lisa. If we didn't have a free today, it would happen, because we had a free press back then where he was able to get that information out. But do you know who one of those guys was? It was Grandpa Bush.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. And then Grandpa Bush.
Prescott Bush.
Yeah, it was Prescott Bush. And the thing about how just our government and playing along with it, instead of everyone going to jail, they did bring out everything. They said, trust us, we'll take care of it. But they protected everyone's names, and they gave Prescott Bush $1.5 million. That started the whole Bush empire, and we've had two of their kids as presidents. I mean, it's so when your eyes are open, it's so bad. And we keep talking about going back, and we're not going to do that without. Good times make weak men. Weak men make bad times. We're heading for bad times. Mm-hmm. We're going to have that to have strong and people again. It's
You mean they'll take away their Starbucks?
yeah.
Oh no,
The thing, and then the
that'll
own
be
nothing,
always
own
available
nothing, and
via,
be
via
happy.
UBI.
If you pair CBDCs with a national or universal income, that's it. You're done. You get your paycheck,
Yeah.
and then you
I want
have
to play something.
I want to hear what Lisa says.
you got money taken out of it for your living expenses. You get $10,000 this month, and $3,000 minus for your living expenses, $2,000 minus for this utility, blah 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 blah, and then you're left with like $80.
Right, but you're living in the company store.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the
It's
dangerous.
It's like the oldest scam, but people still fall for it. They're like, universal income. It's like they beg for it, and we have to have it to where people see what's evil, they fight back, and which we're doing. We're talking about going back to gold, silver,
You
lead.
can look at how.
And what's interesting to me too is that UBI is just another word for dividend, but managed by the government, right? Like if we all owned a chunk of the networks of automation that will de-job many truckers, right? If let's say you own a slice of the Tesla auto trucking network or whatever they call it, you have a piece of the governance coin, you get a little bit of a boost from that, and it's not touching the government in any way, right? It just looks like a dividend, right? Like to me, that model makes way more sense than UBI, because you mix the government in with it, and it just gets all screwed up and evil, basically.
Joe, what were you going to say?
I'm going to play something real quick, if
Okay.
you guys are okay with it. Let's see here. And so this was posted, and let's see if I can. Her name is Whitney Webb on the Jimmy Dore show, whatever.
Whitney.
So
Brilliant.
this was. Tell me if you can't hear it right away, so I can restart it. But this was really interesting to me, and there are a few clips in here that I've seen that are like, holy crap.
But
Anyway.
as I noted in my article, one of the main reasons to be concerned about Peter Thiel is that the company he's made Palantir is at the heart of the surveillance state, and including on the war of domestic terror. And some of his companies brag about targeting Trump supporters expressly. Clearview AI brags about helping law enforcement send people that were present at the Capitol on January 6th to prison.
Mm-hmm.
It's in their sales pitch.
So-
And this is a company deeply tied to Peter Thiel. And I think people should, look at the evidence and look at, again, follow the money. That's how you figure out how things actually work.
So
in
one
US
of Trump. So
politics.
this is an irony, is that one of Trump and J.D. Vance's biggest donors has a video out that I think it's on YouTube even, that brags about using their software, their programs to identify January 6th protesters and put them in jail. It seems so crazy. And then they're all buddied up with this guy. And then, well, so just to get back really quickly, so Eric Prince, his big idea for, what his big idea for Gaza was, right? He had his big
Flood
idea
it.
was to flood it with
And the
ocean.
Pentagon told him no.
ocean
but
water.
imagine if he's in charge of the Pentagon.
He wanted to flood all of Gaza, flood it, so that would flood the tunnels.
Kill everybody.
So he would kill the whole. He would just make the whole place like a Noah's Ark flood.
It's like a step removed from
And that was
nuclear.
his big idea, and he was upset that the Pentagon wouldn't let him do it. That's the guy that they want
Yes.
Trump to put it. So, but here, so what do you say to this? I know what you're going to say, but I have my fingers crossed that Trump learned from his first. But so when he got elected, he ran. Of course, you talked about it. He ran on being an anti-interventionist, getting us out of those wars, investing money back, all that stuff. He's going to not intervene, and that's why the military-industrial complex in Wall Street hated him. And but then when he got in, he put the swamp right in there, right? So Mike Pompeo, he put John Bolton, as you mentioned. But then as soon as John Bolton got out of his administration, he started bad-mouthing Trump.
So anyway, that was that. It's like there were several more like that. I don't know if it's in the same interview or not, but just crazy stuff here. Like I did not realize. I mean, I know we're surveilled like crazy, but some of the levels of integration are through the roof. It's just.
Don't
like,
big
yeah,
companies typically donate to both sides though, because it's a business?
Oh yeah.
And whoever
But
wins,
that's-
they want to be.
Yeah, but that's not the point. It's like
Huge.
Palantir is so embedded that you have a private company who has access to every conversation that you have through your phone, or near your phone, or near your TV, or anything else, because the government's let them in, and the government's paying them to do this, and they're sharing it with foreign nations. And
But Joe, you have to.
The WhatsApp stuff that just happened with that Hamas assassination is crazy. And essentially they can send a message to your, if you have a WhatsApp account, and figure out exactly where you are and drone you, right? That's what
It was, right. It was an NGO that funded the creation of Palantir, and over 250 visits the first year by its developers to the CIA to build a product for the CIA, which was a surveillance product to surveil the public. And then, ironically, Peter Thiel handpicks J.D. Vance to become none other than later a senator, and then later now the VP choice. It's insane. And you're right, Lisa. Both sides are funded by the evildoers so that they hedge their bet. Just like we buy gold and silver and crypto to hedge our against inflation. It's identical, but it's still puppet.
Yeah,
it's puppet.
That's my main point. It's like you can't vote for Trump and get rid of this issue. They're all doing it. They're all in favor of this coming third world war. That they're it's like, oh, if I get assassinated, then you need to level Iran. You need to wipe Iran off the map. I'm like, it's like he's asking to be assassinated because Iran's not the one that's going to do it. It's crazy.
Lisa, what's your thoughts on this question? Is Bitcoin and cryptos become relegated to just DeFi and number go up because the utility is captured by the blockchain capability has been captured by AI from the market, quote unquote?
I don't really know, but I think a lot of what you guys had to say, really made me kind of process a lot of it. I think the human thing that Sean said is valid. I also, just coming on to World Blockchain Roundtable, I have had such an education about the value of utility. And Joe's taught me a lot. All of you have taught me a lot. But to Sean's point, it's going to have to get painful because we're lazy. And we choose the govern me harder, daddy. We choose. I mean, the fact that people would want UBI, what kind of pride as a human, as an individual, are you that you want free income? Like, I don't know. It's disconcerting, or I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. It is concerning to think that people are so open to giving up their freedoms for safety.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, I think if the only chance that you
so soft and weak and you have to call yourself out. I know you got pissed off when I would say, "Hey, look, we didn't tell that we killed those kids, this last weekend," and you're like, "It's the government." And I was like, "It's our government. We let it happen. No one's in the streets. No one's."
Yeah, look what's happening in Venezuela. The people are rising up.
I get really mad, but then like, just look back at your parents or your grandparents. Things wouldn't stand, man. Mm-hmm. Like when I didn't cancel my Netflix, when they did with the kids show thing that pushed me to the edge, and I went in and the bill, I just paid it, 8 days ago, so it's already paid. So I'm gonna stop the renewal. I've canceled it, but I still kept it because I already paid for it. You know what I mean? I didn't want to get rid of it. I didn't want to get rid of it because I like it. And everyone is that way. They're like, I'll make a meme about it. I'll protest about it. I'll talk shit about it. But I'm going to keep my creature comfort. I'm going to do You know, and that's the whole
Well,
thing. Man. People have to get like my parents.
In fairness, the meme is the modern pamphlet, which
can't-
did kind of.
Yes.
We don't have that anymore. Why not? Well, because they did this, and this. I'm like, but I want it, and we've all become a little childish and childlike.
Well,
we're not,
Sean.
We're not.
Let me push back on you a little bit there. People like to say this exact thing when they're trying to silence somebody who is getting a little too rowdy on social media for their taste with arguments or statements they don't like, right? This is typically how you shut down somebody's enthusiasm for continuing to repeat a message that they believe in sternly, right? You're not really doing anything unless you're out in the streets, right? Not so. The speech you're engaging in is at war with other narratives, and those narratives are going to control what people believe the story is when we connect the dots of history. And not speaking adamantly in the face of people who say, you know, all you're doing is frittering away your time on a silly activity, could have said the same thing to Thomas Paine.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, it's like if you can get more effect with a post on X than you could carrying a freaking sign in front of the Congress, right? Because nobody's gonna see you there. Nobody gives a shit. So people in the streets doesn't really matter. It's
And to push back a little bit on you guys, how long has it been? Has there ever been anything like it? Epstein didn't kill himself, but it's leaving the zeitgeist. It's leaving people's minds. No one has been exposed. No one has went to jail. Nothing happened.
But everybody knows this. That's the thing. You just look.
That's what makes me so mad. That's what Lisa. Lisa's always like, it's being exposed. It's being. I was like, yeah, and that makes me more mad because it's like
here's the thing.
It exposes the fact that the
thing.
police and the systems designed to stop criminals are not working towards that end, right?
A year and a half ago, I wouldn't have dared to talk about the IDF's rape brigade, right? But now I'm talking about it. And I'm posting stuff on X. Looking, is like, have you seen this shit? They're writing because they think it is within their right to rape non-Jews. They are rioting in Israel because they think that Israeli soldiers should be able to rape Palestinians. That it is within their rights. So that being exposed is so crazy. If you would have said that 5 years ago, you're like, "What? You're an anti-Semite. You're evil." Get out of my face.
Is this like a fringe position, or is this like the main idea?
There are multiple.
If there are
high
people
level,
in the
high
streets,
level,
they are rioting.
I know a lot of people.
More than I'm saying that we're doing about real evil. They're in the streets saying we have to have our evil.
I feel like the streets are exactly where they want you, though.
That's what I'm saying. We are so programmed, and you think about it though. Look at our freaking Look at the school books. Look at what they are required to teach in every state, and you tell me it's like that is why the threshold is so high. It's going to take a long time, Sean, for enough people to say, "Okay, forget this shit. We're not going to put any more money over there." And by the way, anybody who accepts AIPAC money, my prediction: 5 years, maybe 10 years, they're not going to be able to hold office anymore. Anybody who's taken AIPAC money, because it's going to be exposed. Like, you guys put us up for this. And how many millions of Americans are going to die in the next 5 to 10 years because of this Iranian war, which is entirely because they're all paid off. They are all.
They have to have the war to print the money, though, Joe.
That's right.
They're all whores, and it's all going to end. And I think the Fed's going to collapse.
We've done it 3 times before. We've gotten, as the Matrix like to say, exceedingly efficient at it, right? Like. We've actually had 3 central banks that did the exact same thing ours is doing over a much shorter time span given. But
this one has been patient.
Going to do the same thing.
Effective, and it's infinite money, and that's what you do. If you ask, it's like, how do they do? It's like they have freaking infinite money.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a floating about. I've got a theory working right now on this. I think what they do is they print a claim on wealth, and then they seek the violent means to acquire it, right?
To justify them acquiring.
For example, like essentially nationalizing and subverting Bitcoin. There's some real wealth stored up in that.
Right.
This will now be at their disposal.
Well, everything.
The
and
system
I don't know
can
what
perpetuate on that for a while.
I guarantee to you, Bitcoin ETF, all these things are the same people that own the banks, that own the Fed and everything else.
As long as they can draw on something that
they're
real people's
cycling
labor is
your
going into
paper.
gaining.
They're cycling your paper. They're printing 1,000 to 1 Bitcoin on paper. And what are they doing with it? They're exiting it to gold. And they've been siphoning off all value for, in fact, what is it, 111 years now that we're at?
I made that point. They just printed up
capital
a bunch of
consumption,
fake money
basically,
to buy all the real stuff. And then in the end, they're like, "Oh, this is all worthless." But all the real stuff, we own it.
Property, metals, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. And we're still all just, it's like, number go up, I'm going to be rich.
Baby. Yeah.
Here's another comment. So false flags are what? Actually, a marketing gimmick. A false flag pre-war is just that. It's a marketing manipulation of the public to say, we need to go attack them because they did. Look what they did. It's marketing. It's like marketing 101. It's sick.
I was thinking about that. If you were, and that it makes me mad when I look back as a young lad, how 9/11 turned everyone into a patriot. And all the things that we allowed to happen were in the name of patriotism. That was exactly the opposite. The fact that, like the Dixie Chicks, like, fuck those bitches, kick them out the country. Like, because they said the war was bad and they spoke against our president. And, but everyone fell for it,
He's just one member of the stepping union.
I think that what's happened with what we started the show with is that, whether it's them or us or just human nature, they've made number go up, which is an actual phrase that RFK used, which was a big deal to me. But they turned number go up into the most important thing.
Was that the Jesus?
Where now that when they brought the justification, hey guys, we're here, Bitcoiners, we're gonna make number go up higher than you ever could. Because we have unlimited money, and everyone was a seal. They're like, that's what we want.
Now that their bags are loaded, man, they're all on board.
Yep, that's how that works, right? This is a great meme, by the way, right here. Man, we haven't gotten through all the questions, so you guys, and it's all up to I am for I am.
Let's
you don't get any more credit. I think they're all your questions. So
let's hit it up. Let's see what's next.
Okay, all right. So let's go to this one. Total size in billions.
Look at the numbers.
Yeah, look at those numbers. So 2024, 1.3 trillion. It's still
inflation adjusted.
Well, no, it's not that it's inflation adjusted. The question is blockchain really like the valuation of Bitcoin? If everyone sold today, it would go to zero, right? Yeah. So the valuation of blockchain industry. Do you take out the market cap valuation or do you leave it in?
Well, it can't really go to zero anymore as long as centralized exchanges exist, because they've already created synthetics and have done some rehypothecation just by simply selling the same Bitcoin to multiple buyers.
Yep.
True. But if you just go to the question, look at this.
When will AI overtake cryptos and blockchain industry valuation? What does that mean for all of us invested in blockchain startups, coins, tokens, and companies? Can they both exist, or is this town too small for two shares? It's just another industry. It's the issue really is, are AI valuations legitimate? Because I'd venture they aren't, just like social media weren't. At least crypto has some measure of ability to see how many there are, to have some transparency and how they.
This is ultimately about keeping up a farce in the public markets, right? Like we've already with legislation passed around 2010. I forget exactly what year the Dodd-Frank stuff happened, but essentially all of the value that retail investors can get out of companies going public has been sort of diverted away and retained in the private, right? Like back before 2010, companies maybe did like startups did like a Series B, maybe a Series C before they went public. Now there's like D, E, F, and they're going to have to start doubling letters or naming them like hurricanes, because companies don't go public until all of the growth has been sucked out, right? This is exactly why pretty much everything that hits the markets once it goes public sells the news and really never comes back up. right? You don't really get what you get when you
It's a game. It's
when you think about like investing in Apple at $1. Like it's never going to do that again until we change those rules, because
But
right now
here's
all that's happening in the private equity markets.
Here's what people are switching to AI every day as their search engine versus say Google. And when you look at the valuation of Google and you start looking at how people are starting to use AI on their phone in as a search engine, it really changes the valuation of AI. But more importantly, AI is now serving up a different set of data or false information that Google was, or it's somewhat of the same, but it's not really factual, because blockchain could effectively hold the correct history and the search or whatever. And that's what worries me, is when people start moving to AI to get their information. That's a real value. That's a big change in valuation of AI. But what's sad is they're going to be able, because where they fed the data to AI, like using Reddit. Oh my gosh, using Reddit as their source data point is
Right.
scary. It's scary.
Another point worth making here is everybody who hears the word blockchain should immediately think the word database when it comes to thinking about its function in computing, right?
Right.
AI is not database. AI is what you do with the data. They are both foundational tech, and they're both complementary ultimately at their root, right? Like they're just a weird kind of application drawing on the data, in the sense that they do it all at once right now and train it on GPUs through this massive statistical engine that hopefully a couple of companies, one that I know of in particular, Numenta, worth checking out, is figuring out how to sparsify it so that you can train it on an old laptop like mine, instead of having to buy out a cluster of GPUs and drain half the world's energy at it, right? But it's really application versus database, and it to me setting them at odds with each other is hard to do, because I think about it from an engineering standpoint first. So,
but if you think about it, AI is centralized for sure, and where blockchain could be decentralized, and that's the real battle.
But Hugging Face, right? Like, Eleuther, there are examples of decentralized competitors to these guys already out there that just don't give publicity. You don't have to use ChatGPT if you want to get a great language model. In fact, you can install and run it locally. Even on a crappy old computer like mine, I've got an uncensored model that's just about as good as GPT 3.5 and getting better. That doesn't send data anywhere when I run it, and I could download it and follow the basic instructions. They're easier probably than setting up your first wallet. It's not all just what we see, because the things they don't want you to see are hiding out there. Another one right here, libegen.is. Go get free books, man. Don't go to Amazon.
Yep. Well, do we want to go to another question?
I always only the
Great
graphs I thought were
Okay.
interesting. You don't even have to answer the question. Just if you could look at one more graph, if you don't mind, Joe.
Which one? R&D?
Yes. Look at this.
Let's look at this one.
Look at that. That's in billions. Look at how much money. So AI was already outspending in R&D, which tells you a lot.
That's because they came into it as
you just remind me of something.
Crypto kind of took them by surprise, so they and
named
I'll tell
space
you
is
early
really
on,
for also ran VCs that missed the boat.
We were coming out. We had an open source platform that came out of Disney that we owned, right? And when we went and spoke to VCs, I kid you not, we were asked if we thought, but isn't blockchain evil? Isn't it evil? And that's where the VCs were, and it kind of blew my mind. I'm like, there's an opportunity for you to obviously make a bunch of money. Do you want to be involved in this? You could help us out as a venture capitalist should. and they were concerned that it was evil
That
because
is
Morals all
that
over.
is proof positive to me of information grade or military grade information weapons rather being pointed at the populace, because the VCs think a thing is evil that is actually just an enterprise that they would normally fund.
and that obviously, by the way, everybody knew that there was
that's
a
just absurd.
gold mine for them coming up at this time. This was in 2016, early 2017. Everybody knew that it was going to take off, and that we just didn't know how much, right?
Right.
And
your stupid
were-
accounting databases are doomed. Was the idea.
Crazy.
Like, do you want in on the thing that's going to kill them?
Yeah.
Going
So-
along with the graphs and things, I have a question for this group.
Sure.
Which nobody talks about this. So I don't know why you think nobody talks about this. I found that the electric usage, which is the biggest thing, the power consumption of crypto, is the most evil thing. And everyone in crypto is like, that is that's a valid thing.
It's not valid. I disagree profoundly with the
well,
idea that that's valid.
Let's just say it's a valid thing. But the
not.
power that AI is required dwarfs. I mean, Bitcoin,
Yes.
crypto, everything.
And yet it's
Very
way more efficient than human beings making the same decisions, right? Like, this is the thing that drives me nuts about this. Like,
But why do you think?
Bitcoin might use more power than another nation's GDP, but that's not apples to apples. We got to compare it to another financial system.
Well, I was just saying, what does one war cost in power consumption?
Yeah.
Versus, but why does no one bring up the fact that AI and the AI development is sucking so much more energy and using so much more energy than
Propaganda.
Period.
It's more framing, right? Like this is like.
Well, let's look at the end point. So show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. The incentive for government to get the AI to become the overlord, or those who are really, say, Silicon Valley, to become the overlords using AI, that is why it gets the pass for all of its energy use. Where blockchain in the beginning was about libertarianism and extracting ourselves from the vampire government and from fiat, and so therefore its use of energy was evil. There's my answer.
I gotta say that energy usage is not like this accounting mechanism that they've created at all. Like, the way that it's purchased and sold and created and bought and all this stuff doesn't amend itself to this kind of line of reasoning at all. You can't say like one country's using way too much power and this one's not using enough from this pool of limited power that we can all quantify immediately, right? Like the amount of time they run the generators vary because they turn it down like when people aren't using it as much. In some cases they actually keep it running because it's cheaper. But like the markets for energy are settled daily and hourly and I think maybe quarterly as well. They try to do some long-term projections, but those are all worthless, right? All the really meat and potato stuff of energy use happens on the ground, like every individual human action that requires it, right? You don't use energy on your smartphone unless you turn it on and hit the buttons. So what do you get back? Is really a better question. But like, setting aside the big red herring, what are you actually left with? You're left with a system that could replace the U.S. financial system that doesn't involve any accountants truing up balances every night. Entire firms, industries exist to support the activity that Bitcoin automates with the fundamental technology of blockchain, right? This is supposed to be an energy savings if we will all get on board with getting rid of the stuff that doesn't have any energy savings to it, right? Like, the old system is what we should be comparing it to if we're going to talk about energy. And try to think about banking for a second, right? How many drive-through ATMs have you seen? How many people do they hire that sit in those back offices and true up those books? How many big accounting firms are there? How much energy do they use?
How much energy to build a big bank buildings?
Exactly. Just driving to the damn brick and mortar bank, you can see a lot of the costs on the way.
That's why
so much savings to be had in these things. AI.
Keep going, Joe.
So many Bitcoin maximalists went in with it's like, oh, we need the volcano Bitcoin stuff and the oil system flare stuff. It's like, we're
Yes.
going to use it to power Bitcoin. It's like they work straight into that whole narrative that it's an issue with the energy consumption. And like you said, the AI is a massive and if Bitcoin, or it's not Bitcoin, if blockchain, if crypto were used to solve, it would be more efficient. It would be more efficient than what AI is doing to solve the same question. So
how about keep Bitcoin mining relegated to the colder regions during the winter month, and you've got space heaters.
Put it on
doing something useful that would have been done by a heater instead.
I don't know. But it's still
this is very interesting to me because
there are
I'm
solutions.
really into yacht life and yeah, because like right now I can have my yacht in Galveston and I can have it loaded up. I can drive down there, get on with my Uzi, go out, have a good time for months. But if I pull in New York, I can get in trouble to the port there. It's my own country. But you can't go into these other countries, most countries, for gas, for whatever, if you have weapons on board, which is literally like your right to defend yourself. There are pirates. They've always been pirates on the sea, but literally there are tons of pirates. And now this is a real thing that Russian people are hiring. Like it's like a Hunger Games kind of or a purge kind of thing. You can go out there, have target practice, and just kill these
There's still privateers too. Do countries pay pirates secretly? Do you think
that's what's going on here in this meme? It's privateers basically. But other than rather than capturing the goods on those little boats, they're just wiping them out.
It's just like everything else. You pay for your own surveillance now. If you buy units to do that, you buy your own phone. In this case, you're paying to be a privateer. It's like they flip it on its head. It's like we could make money from it.
Like John, he went into the Bahamas, and they're like, yeah, of course you're allowed to have guns, where it's Bahamas, America, blah, blah, yeah. And then they're like, yeah, you can have, like 7 guns. And he's like, oh, we have 70, and they said that was the largest confiscation of guns they'd ever made from a private person. But they're like, you can have 7, pick 7. He's like, I got like 9 security people. They each, we all need a gun. So, I mean, I thought of some things. I thought of a buoy system where before you go into a port, you can drop a buoy where only you have the tracking device. Go into the port, no guns, come back out 30 miles, pick up your guns, and then you're able to defend yourself again.
Smaller boat. I mean, why wouldn't you just take go get your fuel, go get, I don't know, smaller boat, another boat. Have 2 boats.
Yeah, it's a lot of gas.
We'd solve this whole thing with self-driving cargo shipping containers. They could all swarm and not be giant ships in a centralized single point of failure. Pirates would have a harder time hijacking automated crates one at a time.
I think Durand has the idea I was going to share. This will all be a moot point when free energy is released. And Trump spoke he mentioned his uncle that he's named after, John Trump, who was the longest professor at MIT and also was the person that has all the Tesla files. And so if free energy is released, then this whole issue of us being trapped by this, I mean, it's a lie that we pay for energy, that we require this money to make energy work or whatever. Like that's the demoralization ritual, like so many of the other things to keep us in this slavery system is this biggest lie that that we are trapped. We're not.
Go back.
We just don't know it.
Go back.
Also, you said something about Andrew Tate. There's a meme about him. The whole controversy with the Last Supper thing.
This one.
He and his brother were out in front of the French Capitol picketing, holding signs up and protesting. And he was on X. He said, me and my brother are on parole in the EU, and we're here protesting what they did to Christianity as Muslims. He's like, why aren't Christians standing up? And that's something that he's always talked about because he was a Christian. And
He who?
Andrew Tate and his brother turned to being Muslim because he said that Christians aren't, the religion has no balls. They don't stand up. You don't stand up and say, hey, that's wrong. Hey, you shouldn't put that in there. Hey, I don't want
because they're CIA plans. His dad was CIA.
I think that's interesting and a very valid point that Christians have become. Because before, like literally, Hollywood would be like, hey, we want to put this out. We'll run it by the bishops, and this had a much bigger voice in what was in culture, how far the devil could go, basically. But what did I should go back to?
I don't know. I didn't know which one you wanted.
Yeah, go back.
I can't go back straight because I have too many that you can't see. So
okay.
You have to tell me what it was, and I can go find it.
I don't remember because I started talking about Tape.
How about this one right here? Look at this. Born James Donald Bowman, changed his middle name to David, changed his name again to Jimmy Hamill, changed name to J.D. Vance 10 years ago when he married his wife, grew up in the suburbs of Ohio, not poor at all, went to Yale. How do you fall for the hillbilly elegy stuff?
Oh, come on. This is so awesome. These people are. I wonder when the last time Miller Stream bagged on a conspiracy theory by adopting a conspiracy theory. Like, I mean, if he argued against the possibility that the voting machines got hacked, he's already a hypocrite instantly.
Well, the issue here is this is a blockchain show. We don't know what's real, what's not. We don't know how much of this is real and what's not. It probably is true. And there you go. And we have the solution. The database technology of blockchain could certainly solve this, right? It would validate what was true, what wasn't. Who knows? This could be an AI hallucination.
So you're saying he didn't do any of that stuff? That his name was never?
Oh, I think he did. I think
someone could make it an AI hallucination right now by screenshotting this and pasting it into ChatGPT.
What's the thing though? He's definitely Intel super state backed, right? With Thiel and all the rest of it. So
it doesn't matter. I
don't care who his wife is. I don't care what his name was. It's the fact that they positioned him there so that when they do take out Trump, which maybe they'll take out Trump before the election, and he's going to be the only person running. Is that how it works? And
these details feel like a distraction to me.
Against Iran. Of course it is. I mean, it's all a distraction. He's there to tell us we need to go to war against Iran, and I know this because blah blah blah.
Hit him hard. Yeah.
It doesn't matter where he came from. He's running for an office that does like one thing, and we know it.
Can we
that's the thing. Is he running for that? Because if they take out Trump, if Trump has literally said, if you take me out, we're gonna wipe Iran off the face of the earth. You don't think Mossad's gonna?
And the vice president is the person that replaces the president. That's their primary job, right? Like they're there as a backup.
I would like to. I hope we can touch on the Venezuela thing, and it'd be kind of interesting to talk a little bit more about maybe Kamala. Is she Black or is she Indian? And then lastly, I would like to know if we could also talk about the FBI stating that Trump was not shot, and then recanting the statement later, kind of quietly in the middle of the night, that he was shot.
Have you guys seen that you can't Google it?
Yes.
Yeah. Like the autocomplete does not show it to you. I'm pretty sure the search results don't either anymore.
It goes to Garfield before it goes to Trump.
I defy anybody to go out and find now. I have them because I took them right when I saw them. The screenshots of the varying results published by the auditor on the Venezuela election and the ones pushed by Maduro when he declared victory. And moreover, the fact that the same voting machines were used to audit that and prove it. And that has vanished from the news. You cannot find it anymore. If you didn't screenshot it or download it or save it some way, good luck.
And those who did screenshot it, and put it up, people are going to say, well, it's not happening to me. It must not be true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The damage was already done. The damage was already done. And they're going to continue to do these things prior to the election. Selection.
Maduro.
We got to stop listening to the internet. We got to start treating it like cable news.
Is that the far right in the U.S. is actually backing Maduro. That they don't trust it because it's a CIA. His competitor is a CIA plant.
Right.
I tend to back that. I've been not a fan of Maduro all these years, but when you look at this, you're like, this looks like the same thing they do everywhere else.
It's bad.
You know-
It's very, very bad there.
It's
Like
an obvious pattern.
Oh, I know.
there's people
Did-
dying in the streets. Just they're killing people.
Did you guys
left
see
and
how
right.
closely the graph mapped about how the votes came into the
Yeah.
2020 U.S.
Yeah.
An interesting little stair step spike that happened right around the same time. It kicked
That's
the
what I wanted
numbers.
to talk about. Yeah, we have some people on Din.social that live in Venezuela, and they're giving their input. It's
God,
sad.
you guys, I'm sorry you're
Tragic.
stuck in that shitty situation.
Yeah, it's very, very. I remember when I used to work for Xbox, and we had this like special department that we would have to bring certain like problems to. They would like research it, and like if I couldn't fix it or someone couldn't fix someone's problem, and they were always like you had to have it by like it was 5 o'clock my time or 6 o'clock or something, and then they would cut the call off, and I was like, look, man, it's taking you like 5 minutes. They're like, no, sorry, I gotta go. And I was like, why are they such assholes? And they're like, well, they're in this country where they have martial law, and if they're not out of the building by this time, they have to sleep there because they'll be shot on the street. And it was like, oh my god, yeah, like I had, you don't even think about that, like no idea. We have like some groups that the moderators are there, and it's like, hey, how's it going? It's like, oh, I don't know if my dad's alive. He's on the street, and we're really freaked out, and start showing pictures of like people with their eyes gouged out, all just like, whoa, it's just mind blowing. But Gazoo brings up a good point. And it's also happened. This thing that happened in England, that he said he could make his own guns, but how like through 3D printing, people can make their own. And if you just think back, to be able to make something to defend your family, it's like the most basic right, most basic American thing there is, and how it's illegal. And when I was a kid, I was a little kid. It's traumatic, but my friend made a knife with a piece of steel in like metal shop, and he gave it to me, and it was like a really ugly looking knife. And we're walking home on the tracks, and a hobo came out and attacked us, and I stabbed him with the knife, and we ran away. And
wait, you stabbed him?
Yeah.
No. Did you report this?
No, I didn't tell him. I was very scared. I watched the news because I thought I killed the guy. For every night, I would like go to my aunt and uncle. What's on the news? Anyone died? But yeah, no, it's so.
Jeez.
But just I don't know what would have happened to us if he hadn't have made that, and the fact that we can't just the idea that you can make yourself a pipe gun for like $10. And people are always like, yeah, but then the thugs will use it to rob 7-Eleven. It's just the way of thinking is so
You don't have to use guns to commit shoplifting anymore. That's silly.
It's just because you can make a safe, zip gun, just for like a 22 or so, which that's how it used to be. That's why it was
as long as you keep it under 900, you get to walk free, don't you?
You that's why it was all well in a lot of states. But that's why it was all sold at the hardware stores. Because it's like, hey, man, you can protect your family from, wild animals coming in your house from, just it's the basic right. And the fact that we lost that is such a huge thing. And then in England or in Britain, they took away all the guns. So now they have all this knife crime. This one kid killed these 3 girls, and they charged him with murder, and possession of bladed utensil, or it's some kind of silly law, but like they can't even like carry a knife. It's
you can't carry a spork over there, from what I understand.
Yeah,
so.
And in China and other places, they are putting serial numbers on a blades for like a kitchen knife. You can only have like 2 knives, They're registered with the government. Like the government tracks how many knives you have in your house for cooking and eating. It's
Really?
people, the gun people are like,
They put a lot of thought into thinking about what you might do should they have to come for your life.
yes,
Yeah. This is crazy. Okay, we have
Or should they decide
15
to have to go
minutes
to life, I
left.
suppose.
Do you guys want to cut out? Do you guys want to figure out what we need to cover?
I'm just curious about two things we haven't really talked about tangential to all these issues, right? One, which states have legalized shoplifting? Because just as a PSA to anybody who might be going into like rob a convenience store in a state where it's not legal,
California.
You should really check out a different state.
New York, probably.
California is a fair bet. New York's pretty good. Like
that would
I
be
think Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago.
Yeah.
that would be insane.
look
That's
for
not-
cities.
you're a
Look
liar.
for cities where the mayors
You are a liar. That
these
is insane. That is not true.
good.
You're spreading disinformation. To say that it is legal in those states is insane.
It is not prosecuted.
It's just been decriminalized softly
It's
by a
just
process.
decriminalized.
But
It's like
yeah,
softly
that's
prosecuted.
There is no law, though.
in Texas, in Austin. This is the
So,
dumbest thing. This is one
anyway,
of the worst things ever, and a perfect example of government.
Do-
So Austin, massive. It's literally a red or a blue state in the middle of Texas.
City state.
don't put your freedom in jeopardy, guys. Go to California and
The
and
local
do it there.
government and the everyone else are complete odds. So in Austin, pot is legal, but it's not. It's just so the police are like, no, it's against the law, and the city government says, well, we're not going to prosecute anyone, and the police chief and the police are like, we're going to arrest everybody, and so you get arrested for having downtown. If you have a joint, you get arrested, you get ticketed, you get taken in, you get picked, the process booked, pictured. Then the next Monday or whatever, the city attorney drops the charges. And all of that, the police are off the streets. They're bringing you in. They're using all that money
Exactly.
being thrown.
The only way that they won't come after your weed is if somebody mugs you for it. Like if you want to get out of it, like no, this wasn't mine.
Do they give you the weed
Like,
back
oh, you're a mugger.
when you
Go on.
when you bail out?
On your business.
No, because the police are in charge of that because it's against the law.
They don't return your property.
But the fact that that they're doing all that, it's just so ridiculous.
I think if I will speak for Joe, there are no laws.
Yeah, it's really funny. If anybody's had their car broken into before, it's happened to me numerous times. Right,
Physics is fairly
Parking
reliable
somewhere.
still.
Right. The cops will come and they'll tell you honestly. It's like, yeah. Some of them will say we can't do anything. Some of them will say it's not worth it for us to do anything. Just file on your insurance. That's what the normal is, and that's the obvious. When our neighbor, I'm not going to say which city, but when our neighbor, Pacific Northwest, was I can't remember exactly what happened, but I just heard some commotion outside because our windows were open, and I went out there, and apparently a couple was breaking into our car and his car in his driveway at the same time, and he had just gotten home from work as a detective, Bellevue Police Department, right? He's a detective, and so he came out, and he's like, he comes out there, and he gets their tag and all the rest of this. Well, the cops come, and it surprises the crap even out of me. They print everything. It's like, really? It's like they broke in. It's like they might have got some sunglasses or something, but no, they print them. And I'm like, come on. It's so funny to me.
Diebold ticketing.
One of them, they're gonna freaking go to the ends of the earth to figure out who it was. They found them like 2 days later in a stolen car. It's like any other case. If it would have just been me, it's like, sorry, Joe. Yeah, we know you probably were really attached to that stuff that was in your car, but you can
have it back. We've actually already gone ahead and taken it from them under a civil asset forfeiture as proceeds of a crime. So it's ours now. We're going to sell it. You can't buy it though. You're not allowed to.
Crazy. It's crazy. Our government.
They usually just tell you we're not going to find this. It's just going.
Yeah, it was just because
for your insurance. This is.
And he was a nice guy. It was. They were
This is
great
what
neighbors.
insurance is for.
I had a much worse
allegedly.
Experience. Came to my mother's house for Mother's Day. I used to leave the keys in my car. That's how I was raised. There was no crime. and I opened the door. I had to the dog got out or something in the morning, and then I shut the door, and something was off. I turned around, opened the door, like, what is it? My car's gone. So I was like, where? I looked down the street. Oh, there was a brake is off, and it's not there. It wasn't stolen. No, it can't be that. It took like half an hour for me to finally admit, oh my God, it's been stolen. So I called the police. Like, did you tow it? Because for some reason, I was like, no. So they send someone out, and then things got weird. And they're like, you need to come with us. We found your car. So they drive me out from our town to the country in between my town and Killeen by Fort Hood, right? And they turn to this property, and in the middle of the field, here's my car. And they're like, here's your car. And that's the college's police, there's state police, military police and intelligence, and then there's this Killeen. They're not there yet. And then they tell me that they found a woman walking naked on the highway, and pulled over. She was raped, and then they found my car. So these guys stole my car, went on a big spree, went through the Fort Hood. They were being chased by a helicopter, and the military police and the state police. They ditched the car, they threw the chick out, ditched the car in the field, and ran off. So they're like, so it was a big deal. They're gonna like dust for prints and blah. I was like, yeah, okay. Then the Killeen police get there, and they're dicks. They're like, you come here, and I'm like, yeah, what? I'm just in shock that, and then I feel bad because it was like my car was part of it, so I was part of it, And the guy being a dick, I'm like, why are you being a dick? And he's like, where were you? Last night I was at my mom's for Mother's Day. Can you prove it? I was like, well, my mom and my dad and my 4 children, my wife, and I think I talked to the neighbor. And they're like, quit lying. We know it was you. We know you were the one that was driving. I was like, what? Yeah, because we had your license. So, and I lived in the other town, the other side of the post. They're like, the police broke in your house and you weren't there. It's like, we're going to arrest you. And I was like, I just said we were at my mother's house. And then it starts to rain. I don't know if you know this. If it rains, all fingerprints and everything washed away. Can't do anything about it. It's convertible.
They probably looked at you and were like, convenient.
Yeah, they did. They just wanted to arrest me. And I was like, no. And then they wouldn't put the top up. I'm like, put the top up. No, I already started misting. Can't do it. No. I was like, no. Man.
This is why the anarcho-capitalists are right, man. Private security would compete with itself. Yep. Then there wouldn't be this ineptitude that was getting by because there wasn't a better alternative on the market.
Yep.
Would you agree then private security probably would have done a better job in Pennsylvania on July 13th?
Yeah.
I suppose they would have.
I don't even get into that. That's a long conversation.
No,
I think they might.
Assuming they have competition, right? Like assuming there's not like,
okay, we have 7 minutes.
ESG rules in place to prevent from hiring, but one.
Sean, what's going on this week?
Not a lot. Usual stuff. Catch me and Lisa on True Tuesdays. Got a couple videos out. Trying to get some interviews. I've been, for some reason, I can't. I thought I was going to get JFK or RFK, but his campaign manager, who I know and have talked to, is not answering me, which is bugging me. But we'll see if I get a new interview.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, last one was it me and Greg? Yeah, it was me and Greg talked about the Chevron.
Oh, nice.
Report thing, which is pretty good.
Yes.
It was long.
We could have talked forever on that, man. It's such a big topic.
Yeah, if people didn't realize how much I'll take a second to give you the example, because I did this with Lisa. I'm trying to hurry. We use the word overreach, and it's just breaking the law. on a higher scale than a regular. It's like breaking the Constitution. It's like if you walk out of a store and a cop just shoots you, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, there was an overreach." If you run out of the store and you've robbed it and you have a gun and the cop shoots you, that's his job. But if you just walk out and are like, "Hi, how you doing?" and he pops you in the head, "Oh, that was an overreach of my authority." No, it was murder. And that's what the Chevron allowed so many people to do, is interpret the law to whatever they wanted. That's why it was such a huge deal, which I didn't really get till kind of Greg explained how big it was and how far-reaching it was for everything.
Man,
The police are no longer their own police in that respect.
Greg, go quick, Greg.
All right. For me, I'd like to urge everybody to check out libegen.is. I think earlier this, a few days ago, the most prevalent, I guess, communicator in the world messaged out a book he was reading and suggested everybody read it. It's expensive, though. If you don't have the money for it, libegen.is is the cypherpunk's answer to any text that you wish to liberate in PDF or EPUB. Search any topic. All that stuff's for sale for a lot more than zero or the cost of a download. And at libegen.is, the cypherpunks running it are still in business and ready for you to hit their servers to get knowledge. So go for it.
Libgen. What is it?
So Library Genesis is what the long name is.
Oh, libgen.
It's LibGen. It's Library Genesis.
Oh, LibGen.
Okay, but is it
like the word library and then the word of the first book in the first book
but it's
ever?
.gs, correct? GS. .gs. Anyway, Lisa, what is going on?
Well, homeschool started again, and I'll go really quick. But I was able to have all my shows this week, and so please go check those out on YouTube and join the Mighty Lair on Den Social and get into a great conversation with us there.
Excellent. I am for him.
Kudos and shout out to Lisa for having me on Mondays at the Litecoin Lisa show. We talked about the greatest heist in American history. Very interesting. I think I encourage everyone to check that out. This was this past Monday. Go to din.social if you want to interact with me. I am, and you can read about all kinds of interesting postings and what's happening. Din.social is a place where you can get passive income as crypto. So that's what I have. Off to you.
Right on. All the normal things. We're still dealing with the SEC. So go to legalfund.dragonchain.com. Go to din.social. Make sure you're following Dracaria World. That's getting ever closer to launch. And otherwise, just pay attention.
Should have Jan talk about that, by the way.
Yeah. What's that?
Dracaria World.
Oh, yes. We should do that soon. Right? Okay. So thanks, guys. That was a great show. And we will see you next week. All right? Bye.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A doctrinal approach is palpable if this animal is fallible. But that conclusion is laughable, so with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now?